admit, folks, if there were any justice in Hollywood, you'd never have heard of Matt Eversmann by any stretch of the imagination. And I must say, with all sincerity, that there could have been 149 other men standing up here that did far more than I ever did on any battlefield I ever visited. But it is an honor to stand here as a veteran of Task Force Ranger and hopefully do a somewhat compelling job of representing the force out there. If you've been around the SOF community, you will recognize this verse of scripture that I enjoy telling people, and not to turn tonight into a theological discussion, but it's a good opener. Down at Fort Bragg at the isolation facility, there's a memorial, and at the memorial there is this verse of scripture from the book of Isaiah chapter 6 verse 8, and that scripture says, "And then I heard the voice of the Lord saying, 'Whom shall I send, and who will go for us?' And I said, 'Here am I, Lord, send me.'" Well, that is, ladies and gentlemen, what we're all here about tonight. Those that have said, "Here am I, send me." I retired in 2008 after, I think, a fairly good career. Retired as an Army First Sergeant in E8, and in the last 6 years I've had a lot of time to reflect and think about things a lot, kind of how things are supposed to work out here and why things are the way they are. And my Ranger buddy Mike Schlitz, who used to work for me, might tell you that's a bad thing if Eversmann's thinking too much. But as I'm doing this little Ranger analysis of life out in the outside here, it came to my mind that there are 313 million people living in the United States. That's as of the 2012 census. And for all the veterans in here tonight, and all the families of veterans, and all the friends of veterans, that's 313 million people who have all benefited directly from every man and woman who has worn a uniform. I say that to you all, in all honesty, 313 million people, everyone that lives between the Atlantic and the Pacific, between Canada and Mexico, every single one of those persons has been touched by your service. And I mean that in all sincerity. If I had time to look you all in the eye, every single one of you, I would say, I really believe that. That's how important this job has been for so many of us. We've served every race, color, creed, Asian, Hispanic, black, white, it doesn't matter. You can categorize and quantify everybody, and you all, ladies and gentlemen, have touched them. There's no other occupation other than perhaps being a cleric or a member of the clergy that has such a profound impact. Even the people that we don't even like that much. The people that we don't care or don't care about us, they still benefit from everything you all have done and what you continue to do. So I'll let you think about that. Let it marinate and stew as you go about the rest of the evening. But never forget, in all honesty, never ever forget that the mission that you've done on this earth matters far more than any of us could ever dream of imagining. And it goes without saying that right now, real time, it is about, 04 in Kabul? 6.5, 7 hours, whatever it is, that odd time in front of it, 8. Right now we've got 23-year-old boys and girls, and I say that affectionately, 23 and 24-year-old kids that are coming back in an MRAP, coming back in a Black Hawk, coming back from anywhere, having been out on the hunt, chasing down evil people that mean to do us harm. It needs no reminder for any of you that we should keep them in our thoughts and prayers, because good grammar, because of them, and certainly because of all of you, we are free. Again, that 313 million people all benefit from what these boys and girls are doing. So for them, and for all of you, I would like to just say to myself and the Eversmann family, thank you for protecting us each and every single moment of your career. We are truly blessed. automobile kind of day that, what do you say to this group? What do you really say to this group assembled, regardless of rank, regardless of service? I mean, what do you say to a Gold Star family? What do you say to Blue Star families? What do you say to a wounded young specialist? What do you say to somebody with an invisible wound? What do you say to any of those people? Beyond what I was reminded to say, thank you. Well, that goes without saying. How do you say thank you, though? What do you say thank you to somebody who has literally left blood on the battlefield? How do you say thank you to those that have sacrificed their youth? They have sacrificed their marriage. They have sacrificed every important historic event that a family can have. How do you say thank you to all that? I don't know, because I don't have a very good vocabulary. I was a college dropout, but I would hope you would take it truly in the spirit it's intended, again, when I say, thank you all for everything you do. We can never repay anybody for the sacrifice that you've given. So again, not to turn this into a clapping festival like the Oscars, but to just say, understand it. When I say thank you, it comes from my heart. So all that having been said, and realizing that it is about 21:35, and there's more important things to do than listen to the likes of me, I wanted to share a couple of thoughts that Jay and I had talked about. And it dawned on me, how do you keep somebody's attention for about 7 minutes in this particular group? Again, with all the combat experience, you can't really tell a war story. So what do you talk about? And it dawned on me that I might just talk about toasts for a second. Jay has very graciously, hosted this Toast for the Heroes. You think about toasts, in all your life, and I really, really gotta tell you, I'm not good at toasts. You go and you have the formal toast, like at a dining in, and then everybody stands up and it's printed out in 8th grade crayon so young Eversmann like Rangers can follow the protocol, and you say a toast to, the Grand Poobah of something. And everybody says a toast and off you go. And you really think about it, nobody knows who the Grand Poobah of whatever unit it is, and nobody really cares about him or her. But we do it, and we follow the rules, and off we go, and there you go, and you get to whatever's next in the agenda, and eventually they'll be dancing or something fun. But you got the formal toasts, which are, okay. And then you got the obligatory toasts, when you go to a wedding. And you have, the bride looks so beautiful, and the groom is handsome, and somebody's giving a toast at my table, so I better stand up and say something. You kind of get pressured into doing it, even though you might not really like the bride, or you might not really like the groom, because they're not going to let your, the other partner go back out with you anymore. You can't have fun and all that kind of stuff. But there's that obligatory, you got to chuck something out there so that people don't think you're a knucklehead, and you do your thing. And then again, you get to some fun. And then there's the witty kind of toast, again, which no one can ever remember, but when somebody really gifted and talented does, you're like, man, that guy or that gal was pretty good. And so I got to tell you about one of my young Ranger corporals when I was a platoon sergeant. This was one of those, big like ox, smart like tractor kind of kids that you just love. He's just could do about 1 million push-ups and bench press about 5,000 pounds and walk 50 miles. And it was a gift to a leader to have one of those young corporals. And I don't even remember where it was or how it came out. Other than I will always remember this toast that this young corporal would deliver whenever it was appropriate. It could be in the company bar. But anyway, the toast goes something like this. And he would stand up, and he's a big 6'3", 6'4" kind of kid, and he would say, here's to you, as good as you are. Here's to me, as bad as I am. As good as you are, as bad as I am. I'm as good as you are, as bad as I am. And everybody would go like, man, that was kind of fun. I mean, this guy actually came up with a coherent thought for a toast, and, off it went. And you would see everybody sort of scratching their heads thinking about this. Here's to you, as good as you, and back and forth. And as you think about it over time, you're like, I don't know if that was really just a clever insult or what. Because in the essence of this toast, the kid's saying, here's to you as good as you are. And here's to me, as bad as I am, and as good as you are on your best day, and as bad as I am, I'm still as good as you are. As bad as I am. And you start going through that and you're like, on one hand, that's really great. I mean, that's like, you want to throw that fastball over the plate whenever you get a chance. And then on the other, you're like, my mother would beat me if she ever heard me say that. But I thought about that in the essence of this discussion about toasts. And that one's a good one. Because you know what? It's somebody that's got a little bit of swagger in his step. On your best day, I'm still up there with you. And on your best day, I'm still right there in the fight. But the bad thing about this toast, folks, is that it's in the past. It's an action that happened before. It's not an action for the future. Well, you can see how this would lend itself to this discussion today. We as soldiers and veterans, we think about the past. And it's easy to start thinking and living in the past. And you sometimes lose track of the future and seeing what the great future could be. And you start thinking, man, that can't be the only thing that defines me. And I hope you will take it in the spirit's intended, a movie and clips from a movie. And as surreal and absolutely absurd, I can tell you it's been. I'm not complaining, but it's so absurd to see that picture on there. That can't be the only thing that's going to define Matt Eversmann. At least I hope it isn't. I would hope that my Ranger buddy Mike Schlitz would say something nice about my leadership. I would hope he would say I did something good. I would hope that some of my soldiers have done something and would say something good, and my peers and my classmates and all this stuff. I would hope that they would say that, but really I hope that they'll judge me on something that's going to happen 20 years from now. That has nothing to do with the movie. I don't mean to be serious, because again, when you're out of the gun club, there's really not a whole lot of reason to be serious about a lot of stuff often, and I really do try not to. I mean, that's why I didn't wear socks today, because, first sergeants now can break the rules and nobody can yell at you. But this talk about the future, folks. This talk about the future for a second. We've got to make sure, as we look at each other, on our left and right, our Ranger buddies, our table buddies, our veterans of all kinds of conflicts, from the youngest at heart to the youngest, in wisdom. We've got to be able to look at each other in the eye and tell them, the future is gonna be bright for you. I'm going to ensure it for you. I'm going to make sure that your future can be as bright as it possibly is, because Lord knows, whatever you've done in the past, nothing will be that difficult. As long as we collectively allow it. We're gonna make sure that the future is bright. And I say that collectively, for all of us. We've got to make sure that future is bright. It goes back to this scripture, folks, and again, not to be doggone theological today, although there's a good, we probably all need some more of it, but who will go for us? Here am I, send me. When we look at our mates across the table, who will go for us? Here am I, send me. Who will do this thing for us? Here am I, send me. Our future will be bright. We're going to allow it. Or we're going to will it. You look at what Jay has done here. Look at the lives that this guy, he's a Navy guy, who I love, but he's a Navy guy. Look what he's done for so many people. Jay, you guys, they get in the spirit of September. Come on, it's all good. It's all good. I don't have socks on today, remember. But think about all the lives that this brilliant SEAL, this brilliant businessman, just this good guy, the lives he's touched, the lives that are made brighter by somebody that just said, here am I, send me. I'm gonna make your future bright. So I know it sounds a little Oprah and it sounds a little Dr. Phil sprinkled in on top, but we have to really think about it. We cannot let any of our brothers and sisters, sons and daughters, fathers and mothers, aunts and uncles, it doesn't matter, our relationship, we cannot let any single one of them do it alone. And there's no reason for you to do it alone. My gosh, people, we've got the greatest mafia of warriors, not only assembled in this room, but assembled across the globe. I mean, as long as there are evil people out there, we're going to have the greatest collection of stud and studettes that are going to go out hunting every single moment on our behalf. We have a great team of teams. But it's got to come to the future. And I'm purposely sounding like a broken record because it's got to be in the future. You know, I've been out in this business world for 6 years now, and I'm here to tell you, for those of you still serving, there is a tremendous lack of solid performers out here. I mean, it is an underwhelming collection of misfits that are running business in America today. They are dying for phenomenal, exceptional men and women to come out and be a combat multiplier for them. I mean, they're looking for men and women just like you. They absolutely, positively, I kid you not, they're dying for you. And so the simple task here is just to connect these dots. And there's tons of VSOs out there that are doing it. Some have bigger doggone checkbooks than others, some have better connections than others. But there's a group, a mafia again, of people that are out there to not allow you to go it alone. And that's the key. That's the bridge to the future. That's what's going to make it bright for you. It's going to keep you looking over the bow on the horizon for something great. Because I tell you again, folks, you all, and more importantly, those of you that have given everything, you should never have to live that again. You got to look for the future. You got to feel good about the future, and you got to let us that are willing to help you deal with the future. I mean, that's what these foundations do. And again, I don't mean to preach to you tonight because it's a fun night. It's a festive night. You should drink up and empty your checkbooks at the doggone auction out here. You should spend some doggone money and support this cause, because it's going to take care of a great group of people. Listen, I could go on all night. We could talk about Somalia. I could talk about my Ranger buddy, Mike Schlitz, who, if you need an inspiration, not that there aren't enough inspiring people around here, but my Ranger buddy, Mike Schlitz, is one that, he's my rock that keeps me going every day. Jay is the rock that keeps me going. Every single one of you with your stories, I mean, you're phenomenal. There could be an Olympics just about people that inspire us, but you all are great. But I'm going to shut it down because I've gone over 7 minutes, and I'll tell you with a couple of thoughts just to let stew. As you think about, again, these men and women, our shipmates, our teammates, our Ranger buddies that are still overseas, that are deployed, that are looking for you to make their future bright when they get back. It's a tough job. I mean, it's hard. You know, and what you give up on one hand, you inherit on another, and there's the other problems that come out up here and all that nonsense. Fact of the matter is, folks, you've been through worse. And I'm here to tell you, it's a great doggone pearl of an oyster, pearl weight inside an oyster for you. When we finished our tour in Somalia, you know, we had a memorial service for all of our fallen comrades, unfortunately, that we've all been to. And they're very stirring, they're very dramatic, and the boots and the weapons and the dog tags, and you stand there at attention, and all the commanders give all the eulogies that commanders always do. And in this case, the last person to speak was the JSOC commander, was General Garrison. General Garrison was a great big Texan, about 6'5", the big Texas drawl. And he stands behind the podium and he says the entire Henry V Battle at Agincourt Court speech. Now, I'm a staff sergeant at the time and didn't read a whole lot of Shakespeare when I was in high school, if any. And I'd never heard this story before. I mean, you hear the we few, we happy few, we band of brothers piece. You're like, I got it, but I never knew where it came from. And so he went on to recite this thing, and I had to, of all things, ask a lieutenant afterwards, a West Pointer on top of that. God love you, but I had to ask this guy, where'd that come from? And of course, I got the West Point look, like, listen, Shakespeare. But he told me the whole story about Agincourt. The British are going to fight the French. And the morning of the battle, King Henry goes and he does his recon of the battlefield. He sees that they're outnumbered, a lot to a little. I mean, there's thousands of French soldiers massed across the battlefield. And Henry looks at this XO, this little wimpy Casper Milquetoast guy named Westmoreland. He says, what do you think we ought to do? And Westmoreland says, man, we need to beat feet and get out of here. Because this is bad. It ain't going to be a good one for us. And Henry has the big kind of walk with me speech. And he utters the best line I think I've ever heard of any poem I've ever read. There's about 3 of them, but this one's a good one. And he says, as General Garrison repeated, whoever does not have the stomach for this fight, let him depart. Give him money to speed his departure, since we wish not to die in that man's company. If you're not an asset, you're a liability. If you're not in to win it, you need to leave because you bother those of us that do. It's that simple. Folks, the future is going to be bright. We are all in it to win it. We've got the stomach for this fight. Please, please, I beg you, as we look to the future, promise me that you will do everything you possibly can, whether it's your time, your talent, or some dough, which we need a lot of, any of the 3, that you'll give back to these soldiers, sailors, airmen, and Marine that are leaving it on the battlefield. It's certainly the least we can do, but we owe it to them because, again, the 313 million people that live in this great country, we're all benefiting from it. Now, that's about all I got for you, folks. That's the only thing I could think to possibly throw it in, but I will tell you this. Here's to you, as good as you are. God bless you all. Rangers lead the way.